Well, hello, and welcome to Shine On, the Health and Happiness Show. My name is Casey Morabito-Grion, and my guest today is Vari Kepke. She is an author and illustrator of healing books for children. So here we are, recording this in the dead of winter, and what are we going to talk about? Healing flowers and flower essences. And we're going to talk about Vari's book and also her school that she will be launching soon. So we've got lots of fun stuff to talk about here on Shine On, the Health and Happiness Show. Now, I also do a show called Shine On, the Health and Happiness Show on the radio Sunday morning, so maybe you've heard of that on WHUD. That's always a fun thing to tune into. I want to, before we get going though, thank my wonderful behind-the-scenes staff for making this show possible. Our director tonight is Mike DeLuca, assisted by George Ondek. My sister, the set dresser, Maria, is here. Backstage, we also have Mark Firestone, who is joining the crew. And on camera one, we have the lovely Colleen McCarthy, who is a student at SUNY Plattsburgh, and she's going to run one of these studios one day. So welcome, and thanks for shining on. All right, Vari, thanks for being here, my dear friend.
Delighted.
Let's start with your name, because it's unusual, and it's beautiful, and it's glorious. And it's pronounced Vari, but it's spelled M-H?
M-H-A-I-R-I, which is really challenging. It's Gaelic for Mary. So the M and the H make a V in the Gaelic language.
The Gaelic language, that's
Yes.
a lot of fun. So,
And
what does it mean?
It means Mary in Gaelic,
Right.
but I did a little bit of research and my name was spelled incorrectly on my birth certificate, and then I researched that, and that's an Indian goddess.
Oh,
and
wow.
so I thought, okay, I'll take that.
There are no mistakes.
Yeah.
There are no mistakes. Well, that's so funny. So someone misspelled your name on your birth certificate.
My dad, oh, now I'm just outing him.
Sorry,
Yes.
Dad.
My dad forgot an I in the middle, and it was, I was born in Scotland, and they didn't ever expect that I was going to travel across and end up in New York, but
Wow.
here I am.
Born in Scotland, welcome. Born in Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
And you lived in Canada.
When I was 6, I moved with my family to Canada.
And now
Ontario.
you're here in the Hudson
Yep.
Valley.
Mm-hmm.
And we have before us what? Tell me what all of this is.
This is what keeps me busy during my days.
Mhm.
This system right here, I don't know if you can see the remedies, but it's part of the Bach system of Bach essences, and they're used to help heal emotions, to help bring stability and balance to people in their emotional lives.
Mm-hmm.
And it was started by Dr. Bach in Wales in the 1930s.
Wow.
And he discovered that there were properties in each of the plants, in each of the flowers, that affected him emotionally, and so he started making tinctures out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got to the point where there were 38 of them, and then his system was complete. So that's what this has been made with. And
Well, thank you, Dr. Bach.
yes, and I think a lot of people will have heard of Rescue Remedy. It's a basic one that is in drugstores and health food stores. And this one, these are the tinks.
I'm smiling because I have that in my purse.
These are pastels, which are really good. But a lot of people get just the drops on their tongue.
Right. Rescue Remedy is for trauma?
For
tension?
any time that something out of the ordinary happens that upsets you.
Right.
We always keep it in our car because, you know, when somebody cuts you off, you have an upset, we're using it for that. My kids used it a lot growing up. I used it with them when they were babies. If they were crying an awful lot in the back seat, if they were upset about something, I would give them a little drop on their tongue and they would just stop crying. And I thought, okay, that's how I got hooked, because it was something when they were having tantrums, something that calmed them down. So I thought, okay, whatever that is, I want to learn more about it.
Wow.
And so that's how I started out.
So you have 2 kids?
I have 2, yes. They're grown now.
Grown children, a girl and a boy.
Yep.
And they grew up
Yes.
taking Bach essences.
From the moment they were born on their lips to help them adjust to the shock and the trauma of birth. And it's also something that the remedies work really well for people. I've used them in hospice for people who are having trouble passing over. Sometimes they get stuck at the one of the different stages as they're moving forward. And so the remedies, you can put it on their lips or on their pulse points, and it helps them to be, it helps with the fear and to be calm and to be comfortable moving ahead and letting go of the past. So
Wow.
it's something that I found has been really helpful.
Yes. I've had them from time to time in my life, but I never really understood what I was doing, because
Right.
the 30, it comes with a chart. So
Yes.
you can look up, if you feel this, take
Yes,
this. If
it
you
has
wanna,
this right
yeah.
here. This is a chart that I have right here. And so this is just an overview
Right.
that you can just glance at and see, which is okay when you start out, but then when you want to get a little bit more involved, you
Right.
can, they have a quiz that you can take that's it's online as well on feelbach.com, but you go through and you answer different questions, and then it will tell you what it is, what remedies you need, the 5 that you need.
Okay, so I just reached over and I picked up oak.
Oak. That oak is a very good one for being strong, for somebody who's strong and keeps going but needs a little bit of support to do it.
Oh, okay.
So that's, I might not have thought of you as that, but
That's what I
Who
chose.
knows?
It just happened to be the closest one to me.
it's like when you're feeling that mood, when you need a little bit of extra strength, like an oak tree. Often the
Oh,
properties,
okay.
have a correlation to the mood, like crabapple. You can imagine what that would be for.
Crabby people?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
It
for
makes them
people-
happy or makes them
Yes.
crabbier?
Makes them better.
Really?
Takes the crabby edge off. And
Wow.
so, yes.
Oh, that would be like rude if you took the quiz and it says you need crabapple.
Well, you try not to. They take the quiz, and then I don't really get to put through what it is. But there are ways that you can word it so that
Right.
it sounds like it's a good thing, rather than saying.
A lot of people have anxiety. What would you take
Yes.
for anxiety? What would you recommend?
If you know what you're anxious about, you would take Mimulus. If you just
Mimulus.
have Mimulus,
Never heard of
it's
Mimulus.
a flower,
It's a
Mimulus
flower.
flower. And if you don't know what it is, it's just general anxiety about something, and you don't know, and you're afraid in general, then that would be aspen.
Aspen.
Right. So it depends on what it is, the nuances, and you can take up to 5 or 6 of them in one.
You could
bottle.
take 5 or 6 different drops.
Yes. And the way that you do it is you take, there are bottles that you can mix. This is what a practitioner would usually do, because a lot of people don't want to go and buy the
whole
bottles are
38.
right, or buy their $18 each, and they might not want to go and buy 5 or 6. But if you call a practitioner, then you can do it over the phone, or they can mix it up in a
cocktail.
bottle for you, a cocktail, and they mix a little brandy and water, and then that will
Brandy?
last you. That's to preserve it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nice, it
I'm
adds up.
liking this more and more.
But you also don't have to have that. You can do it with just plain water and keep it in the fridge if people don't want to have alcohol.
How many
in it.
drops do you take? Depends.
4 times a day.
4 drops 4 times a day.
Yes, and you can give it to adults, children, pets. They have a quiz for pets, so
Wow.
that if you have a really neurotic pet or one that is fearful of going to the vet or runs around chasing its tail, whatever the crazy pet's doing,
Yeah.
they have things for or if you're leaving them at the kennel and they're lonesome. And you can use them for plants as well. People often use them to grow better tomatoes, to
Get
grow
out.
better.
That's
Or when you
fantastic.
transplant a plant and you really want it to flourish, then you put some rescue remedy in with that.
That makes perfect sense to me, because I would think when you transplant a plant, this little living creature of a plant suffers some trauma,
Right.
right? And then-
Exactly.
oh,
Or if you're moving yourself, they're good ones for that. We used it a lot when my kids were young. We used it for, there's one called hornbeam, which is that hornbeam.
hornbeam.
Hornbeam. And
Another
it's
flower I've never heard of.
the Monday morning feeling, procrastination. And boy, when it came to homework, there were ones for clematis, which is mental focus. So if you have a child who is slightly ADD, or any time that you're finding it hard to focus, then that would be clematis.
Wow.
And then you bring your focus in with remedy, and then you do the procrastination one, and then they get down to business.
Did your kids, because since they grew up with this, did they learn how to self-medicate? Did they gravitate towards it? Do they do it still today?
That's actually the reason. My daughter was a stormy girl with a lot of emotions, and she got very overwhelmed and frustrated with them. And timeouts were not working, doors were getting broken, holes were getting kicked in walls. She's a sweet girl, but oh my God, the damage that got done. And so we had to come up with a new plan. So the new plan was that she would go into her bedroom and she would read this book, which is a dictionary of, it tells you a mood, whatever it is, dilemma or fear or indecisive,ness, and then it tells you the remedies beside it. And so she would go into her room, and she would have to come out with the chosen remedies. But by the time she had sat there for an hour reading this, she'd practically memorized this book. She had understood what her moods were and her feelings, and she calmed down. And that was such a catalyst for me, because I realized that her struggles were because she couldn't express herself, that she was bursting with emotions and didn't have the language for it. And so that became a turning point for me in my life and for my daughter as well. And that's why I became a practitioner, a Bach practitioner. And it's also then I wrote a book that came out of helping her to understand herself.
Wow.
And so then it became, that one little nugget was the thing that then I ended up working with a lot of children that I work with who have similar struggles because they've been traumatized physically, emotionally, or they've handicapped in some way. And so they were having the same struggle. So I thought, okay, this is one little plug that needs to be connected so that kids can start to articulate their feelings. And then it's not that anything has to be done with them. Just acknowledging them, expressing them was what the goal was.
We are talking to Vari Kepke. She is an author and illustrator of healing children's books, and she also is a practitioner of Bach flower essences. And now I understand the whole arc. I just want to mention, can we mention your daughter's name?
Claire, yes.
Her daughter's name is Claire, and she is no longer a stormy child. She is the most peaceful, graceful yoga teacher you've ever met. So all's well that ends well.
And she's got into child psychology, and she's a degree, and she's on her way to becoming an occupational therapist to do a similar kind of practice. So she has really embodied it. Her struggle has become her passion, which
fantastic.
is just I'm so proud of her for managing to turn it around.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that she was having her own career in this. That's fantastic. We rode up together from Cold Spring, and we're talking in the car. It just makes so much sense now to teach children how to handle their emotions. Like, duh, why aren't they teaching this in kindergarten since the beginning of time?
Right.
It just makes so much sense because it just makes so much sense. That's a show for another day. So let's talk about the book.
Okay.
Is this the book that came out of your daughter's struggle?
Yes, and a couple of other kids that I was working with at the time. And this book, this is the hard copy, which you can look at.
It's beautiful.
It's called Thread Girl the Brave, and it's available on Amazon, and it's an ebook, a Kindle, paperback. There's also a paperback version right here.
Adorable.
And so they're all available on, this one's a special order one, the hardcover.
It's beautiful. You did the illustrations
Yes,
too.
I did all the illustrations on iPad, and I actually have a display of some down here, which I can show you while
show us some pictures.
Yes. So,
Thread Girl the Brave is the name of the book, Thread Girl the Brave, written and illustrated by Vari Kepke. So what is this?
So the story is about a girl who comes from another planet, and she's made of yarn and thread, and she arrives on Earth before she is properly tied together, before her head and her heart are finished being sewn. So she arrives here and starts to unravel. And the more that she explores the Earth, which is very bright and colorful, I think we can see lots of pictures of it here. This is her landing, and then she begins to unravel.
Because
And
her head and her heart
are not connected.
aren't fully grown yet.
Yes.
They're not connected.
Right. She would never got the idea of how to pull those things together, and so she starts to unravel and loses some control of the situation. And these are her feelings that are flying all over the place.
Yeah.
And she tries to figure out what to do with them, and then she has to go about putting it all together. But she gets so overwhelmed, she has an outrageous tantrum.
Oh boy.
This
and
was-
did she get some Bach essences?
Yes.
No.
So you see, we weave that in. The book stands on its own because it's something that I would like to be more independent.
Right, of course.
And so then she has an outrageous meltdown, and then she has to figure out how to put it all together, how to put herself back together. And this is the foundation of the whole system of what I'm doing, is that
beautiful.
she then has to take a look at each feeling and figure out what it is and put it in a basket, so it's happy or sad or lonely or frustrated. And by just categorizing the feeling as they come up, then she starts to separate herself from them and stand back a little bit. And the book that I'm working on now, that is one of the lines is, "You're not your feelings, they come and go. You are the river in which they all flow." And so it's to teach them that they're separate.
They're separate.
Yes,
Get
from
them
their
out of
feelings.
you.
And
Look at them.
when my daughter was young, we used to do the exercise where we would say that her emotions were her children. And so she had to sit down and she had to put them out there in front of her and let them talk one at a time. And it was brilliant. That worked so well for her, because then she got to externalize it.
Yeah.
And then she wasn't exploding the way that she had before.
Brilliant.
And so as she starts to move forward with them, she realizes that there's a lot of joy and fun and creativity to be had once you start getting a handle on your emotions. So none of the work that I do is involving analyzing the emotions. That's there's a lot of people who are very good about doing that. This is just letting children see their emotions, so they recognize. It's like holding a mirror up to themselves, and then they get to decide what to do with it.
And they get to learn that they're not crazy or going crazy or bad or wrong, that we come into this life with a basket full of emotions, and we need to understand them so they don't rule us.
Right, and the basket keeps filling up all the time. It's constantly going.
Thread Girl the Brave is the book, and teachers, this should be in classrooms. Speaking of classrooms, you're going to have a school?
This is my goal. It's my ambition to use this book as the foundation for the curriculum.
Okay.
And I have a series of 5 or 6 other books that come after it. The next one after this is called Cuckoo Blue, and it teaches younger children, sort of kindergarten, first grade, how to understand what's inside of them. Instead of making it feelings, it's their ribs become their cage, and so it's who's in your cage.
Oh, wow.
And so they open it up, and this first one is with birds, and they get to decide whether they're a cuckoo bird or an ostrich or a hummingbird, and identify. So instead of identifying with the words, they're identifying with the bird. And then it's something that externalizes it for them as well.
Wow.
And then the one after that has to do with it's fish. So it's an octopus or a shark or a minnow. So they have different fish they can relate to, and each one is symbolic of a mood. And so the idea that is to help kids understand and learn to speak, learn to become emotionally articulate.
Right.
As they learn their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s, it's just right in there as a foundation, and it's something that's implemented, and it doesn't become something that's separate. And when they learn from a very young age, then it becomes something that is ingrained in them. And the school is called Hoot School.
Hoot?
Hoot School.
Hoot School.
Hoot School.
Like owls?
Yes, because it's run as a wise mother owl who teaches this, and there's a song that goes with it, and I have the song
You've written a song?
Yes, I've written it, and I just have the word. I have someone who's helping me put the music to it so that there's a little theme song, and it's a mother owl singing to her baby and the baby singing back. So the chorus sings back and forth. So the teacher sings and then the students sing back.
And what
and
are some lyrics from this hoot song? Putting you on the spot.
Yes, now you're putting me
She
on the
sings,
spot.
she dances, she writes, she illustrates, and she can prepare you a heck of a Bach Essence cocktail.
Yes.
Vari Kepke.
And it's so much fun. I'm just having so much fun doing this.
That's fantastic.
Really fun.
Who taught you to understand your emotions so well that you could teach them to others? Teach this to others.
I would say it was self-discovery. My mom was a yoga teacher, so I did learn meditation from her when I was 8. She began teaching me meditation, and both of my parents have done yoga since I was 8 years old. So my dad's been doing every night, 4 in the morning for 50 years. However, is that I'm 55.
He gets up at 4 in the morning to do yoga?
He does. He's like an early bird like you.
Well, I don't do yoga.
Yes.
I take a shower and run out of the house.
Yeah, no,
Holy smokes.
he's got a long-term practice, and so my mom's been teaching, and then my daughter's teaching as well. So that was part of it, but the learning how to articulate, I think, has been a lifetime struggle for me to figure out how to do it, because I certainly didn't know how. I was an artist, and I expressed myself through artwork as a sculptor and a painter for years. But to actually put the words to it, it took me a long time. It was working with my kids and working with the kids from 9/11 that had been, one in particular lost her voice, and she was having a hard time figuring out how to come back. And her sister was having trouble because she was overwhelmed with too many words, too many feelings. And so it was a matter between the two of them, and my daughter Claire was helping me with it as well. That's how it kind of came together, and I realized, oh, this is a real need.
Right.
It's a real need.
So you started to write the basis of
Yes,
all
I wrote
of
it
this.
I wrote the beginning of this a couple of weeks after 9/11.
How did you come to heal children from the September 11th attacks? How did that come to be?
Well, I was one in particular who had been treated by a lot of other people and still wasn't finding her voice. I would go over to her house, and Claire would come with me because she was 9 at the time, and we would just lie on the floor, and I would draw some lines on a page and then leave it and then go and color myself. And then she would just fill in some drawings. And then I began doing bodygrams, which that's what I call them, the outlines of the body. And there was one of the older girl was having trouble with her knees, terrible pain in one of her knees. And what she did was drawing was her legs became the Twin Towers, and there was a plane hitting, and that's what the pain was that had hit her right. So she had identified with the feelings. And she'd store them in her body. And then another child had a lot of chaos going on and couldn't figure it out. But as time went on, found that her ribs became the stripes on the flag, and her heart became the stars. And she felt safe because she knew that she was wrapped in the flag.
Wow!
And so she found that all the flag symbols identified, so they embodied and they take all the images inside.
Now, don't we always do that? I mean, not just children. When something happens, we bring it into our aura and into our bodies, and as they say, the issues are in your tissues.
Yep,
right?
Exactly.
So sometimes, when you're not feeling great, Bach essences can help.
Absolutely.
Ease out these pains. Yoga can help. It's why I do Reiki, to help move the energy along.
They all blend together beautifully.
Yeah. You do so much. You're so much more than can we talk about your healing work? Because you do.
Sure.
She does amazing healing work. I'm a client of hers, and it's how would you explain what you do? It's fabulous.
I'm trained as a craniosacral therapist and a massage therapist.
Now, craniosacral therapy
works with
the back of your head.
It works with your skull, and the idea is that the skull expands and contracts, and there's a certain rhythm to it when it's healthy, and if it gets blocked because of trauma, an accident, or tension, then the cerebral spinal fluid doesn't flow up and around your brain and back down and feed your body the way that it needs to.
So you do some of that.
I do some of that. That's my traditional training. And then what I've been working a lot with in the last 5 years is I do medium work through the body. And that's what you experienced.
Amazing.
But you would have to explain
now,
what.
you know, you're going to have to come back and do another show on what that is. But she is an amazing, amazing, wonderful healer.
Thank
Vari
you.
Koepke. Where can people find out more about you?
My website is flowerwaterheaven.com.
Flowerwaterheaven.com.
Or you can cross-link it to Thread Girl the Brave, and that's a way that on Amazon all the information cross-links.
Okay.
So it can be fine.
Thread Girl the Brave. Do you also crochet or knit or?
No.
Okay. Just
And
wondering.
so people started asking me that, and I thought, oh, I should have learned, but.
There's still time.
Yes, I do use it in activities I do with the children, with the cards, and they breathe in. They keep a pastel in their mouth, and they have to breathe in and do the whole cardboard thing without letting the pastel melt, and that is a meditation exercise.
Sure.
So
Focuses
it's active
their attention,
meditation.
and their body's moving while they're
Right.
focusing. Beautiful.
So
Well, this has been wonderful. I'm so glad you came on Shine On, and we'll have
you.
to do more of this. And everybody, go find out more about Vari Koepke online at flowerwaterheaven.com. And my honey pie, Mike Grion, is here, our chauffeur, who is going to drive us back to Cold Spring. And because, for those of you who maybe listen to me on the radio, you probably hear a lot of stories about my husband, Mike, and never see him. And honey, will you come on and say hi? I just want you to show your face. How are you?
I'm good.
Come on over. How'd we do?
Oh, you guys did great. You did great.
Good. This is my honey, Mike. And thanks for shining on with us.
All right.
Thanks for coming to the studio. It was good to see you. Did you learn a lot?
Oh, I learned a lot.
So now you know, you've probably seen a couple of these around the house
I know,
from time to time.
I said that.
Now you know what they are.
I did. I said that before.
All right.
So.
I'm going to get him some of that crab apple. No, just kidding.
You can sneak it into people's,
Right. I'll put it in his coffee.
Crab, okay.
By the way, if you could recommend just one flower essence for people to get started on this journey, what would you recommend?
I would say in the dead of winter where we are now, gentian, which brings gentian.
How do you spell it?
Gentain.
Gentian.
Gentian.
And that's a flower too?
Yes, and it brings sunshine.
Oh,
It
wow.
opens your heart too. I can give you some before we leave. It just makes you feel light, like the sun's coming out inside.
All right. So, Bach Flower Essences, Thread Girl the Brave, Healing with the wonderful Vari Koepke. She's amazing. I'm so glad you joined us tonight. Thank you, George Ondeck, Mike DeLuca, Maria Morabito, Mark Firestone, who's joined the crew, and the lovely Colleen McCarthy on camera one, who goes to Plattsburgh. And I'm so glad you were all here tonight. Shine on.